Welcome, dear friend, to a quiet place crafted just for you. Thank you for choosing to spend your time here in this peaceful sanctuary, a small refuge from the noise and hurry of the world. The story that follows is intended as a gentle companion, a soft and whispering lullaby to help you find contentment and ease your way into a restful sleep. If this quiet place brings you comfort, a simple like, a subscription, or a softly shared thought in the comments helps others find their way here too. Tonight we will be visiting the Vale of Whispers, a hidden valley where the world's most peaceful moments are carefully kept. You will walk on paths of soft earth, feel the gentle glow of memory moss, and meet a kind archivist who tends to a library unlike any other. Prepare to be enveloped by an atmosphere of profound stillness, where every sensation is a balm for the soul, and every soft sound is an invitation to let go and find true rest. Chapter 1. The Gate of Silken Moss. The journey, it seemed, had not so much ended as simply dissolved, like a lump of sugar in warm tea. There was no grand arrival, no final triumphant step. There was only the gentle realization that the path Corin had been walking upon had changed. The dusty track of the world outside had given way to a soft, yielding earth, a deep, dark loam that seemed to cushion every footfall with a quiet springiness. The air itself felt different, holding a cool stillness that carried the rich, clean scent of damp soil and the sweet perfume of unseen ferns, a fragrance that spoke of deep, ancient peace. One world had simply faded, and this new, quiet one had bloomed in its place. Towering above the path, two ancient trees, broad and benevolent in their great age, reached for one another, their highest branches intertwining to form a perfect, living archway. Geda. This, then, was the entrance to the Vale of Whispers. There was no gate of iron or wood, only this quiet threshold of nature. The trunks and heavy limbs of these arboreal guardians were draped in a thick carpet of moss, a variety Corin had never seen before. It possessed a soft silvery blue sheen, and even in the muted afternoon light, it seemed to hold its own gentle luminosity, a soft glow that felt both magical and deeply natural. A breath of wind, a languid zephyr, sighed through the leaves overhead, creating a soft hushing sound that felt like a tender welcome. Corin paused beneath the arch, extending a hand to touch the surface of the glowing moss. It was impossibly soft, like fine silk or the down of a newborn bird, and a surprising warmth radiated from it, a gentle, living heat that seeped into Corin's fingertips and traveled up their arm like a pleasant memory. The warmth was profoundly comforting, a quiet reassurance that this place was safe, a sanctuary in its very bones. The moss pulsed with a faint, slow light, a rhythm so unhurried it was like watching a cloud drift across a summer sky. It seemed to breathe with the same serene contentment as the valley itself. Stepping through the archway was like stepping into a room where all sound had been softened. The world Corin left behind was one of sharp edges and sudden noises, and here every sound was rounded and gentle. The air, thick with moisture and the scent of growing things, seemed to absorb any harshness. In the distance, a new sound began to make itself known. Not a sharp noise, but a low and continuous hum, a resonant thrumming that was felt as much in the chest as it was heard with the ears. It was the sound of water, of a stream flowing with a slow, unvarying purpose over smooth stones. This constant, gentle hum was the valley's heartbeat. The light that filtered down through the thick canopy of leaves was a soft dappled green, painting moving patterns upon the mossy ground. It was a kind light, without glare or intensity, as if the sun itself understood the need for quiet here. Everything seemed to exist in a state of gentle repose. The leaves on the trees were heavy, unstirred by any frantic breeze. The ferns that lined the path unfurled their fronds with a slow, deliberate grace. The very atmosphere encouraged a slower breath, a softer gaze, and a stillness of the mind that Corin had long sought. As Corin took a few more steps into the valley, they noticed the feeling of the soft earth beneath their boots, how it seemed to press up gently with each step, a supportive and steady presence. The scent of the air deepened, a complex perfume of wet stone, decaying leaves which smelled sweet and loamy, and the clean, almost minty fragrance of the silken moss. There was a sense of profound age here, not the age of ruins or decay, but the age of things that have been allowed to grow slowly and peacefully for a very, very long time. It was the quiet wisdom of an undisturbed place. A small bird, its feathers the color of a dusky shadow, flitted from a low-hanging branch, its wings making only a soft whisper of sound. It landed a short distance away and looked at Corin with a dark, curious eye, before taking flight again, disappearing into the green dimness without a single chirp. The silence it left behind was even deeper than before, a comfortable and enveloping quiet that felt like a soft blanket. It was a silence that did not feel empty, but full of peaceful, sleeping life. Looking back, Corin could no longer see the path they had traveled. The archway of mossy trees seemed to have closed behind them, not in a threatening way, but as a gentle guardian closing a door to a quiet room. The world outside, with all its clamor and hurry, was gone. There was only the vale, with its soft light, its humming stream, and its profound, abiding peace. Corin felt the tension they had carried for so long in their shoulders begin to dissolve, melting away into the calm green air. A deep, effortless breath filled their lungs, and with its slow release, a feeling of having finally, truly arrived. Chapter 2. The Archivist and the Warm Drink. The path meandered gently, following the soft contours of the land without any sense of urgency. It led Corin deeper into the heart of the vale, towards a structure that seemed less built upon the land, and more a feature that had grown directly from it. Nestled in a shallow dip, surrounded by tall, graceful ferns, was a low, circular building made of a pale, smooth wood. The grain of the wood swirled in gentle patterns, and there were no harsh angles or corners, only soft curves that echoed the shape of the surrounding hills. It had a roof of living turf, dotted with small, hardy mosses and tiny, star-like flowers, making it appear as one with the landscape. As Corin approached, a door, as curved and seamless as the rest of the building, swung open with a soft, woody sigh. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted for a moment against the warm, dim light within. This was Fendrel, the Archivist. They were of an indeterminate age, with kind eyes that held the same deep, peaceful stillness as the valley itself. Fendrel offered no grand greeting, just a simple, warm smile and a slight inclination of the head, a gesture of quiet welcome that instantly put Corin at ease. The invitation to enter was unspoken, yet perfectly clear. The interior of the archive was a single large circular chamber, and it was filled with the most comforting scents imaginable. The primary aroma was of aged wood, a warm, slightly sweet fragrance that spoke of centuries of quiet existence. This was layered with the delicate, herbaceous scent of dried flowers and herbs hanging in small bundles from the high domed ceiling. Soft light filtered down from a series of round windows set near the roof line, illuminating dust motes that danced lazily in the still air, each one a tiny, drifting star. The air was warm and deeply peaceful, a stark contrast to the cool, damp air outside. Fendril moved with an unhurried grace, their soft-soled slippers making no sound on the smooth wooden floor. They gestured for Corin to sit in one of two deeply cushioned armchairs that faced a small central hearth where a low fire crackled with a gentle, reassuring sound. Without a word, Fendril went to a small alcove and returned with two earthenware mugs, from which fragrant steam rose in slow, curling wisps. They handed one to Corin, the mug's surface pleasingly warm and smooth to the touch. The scent that rose from it was of honey and chamomile, a fragrance that promised immediate comfort. Corin wrapped their hands around the warm mug, letting its gentle heat soak into their skin. The feeling was immensely grounding, a simple, tangible pleasure that seemed to anchor them in the present moment. They took a small, careful sip. The tea was sweet and floral, its warmth spreading from their chest outwards, a liquid comfort that seemed to dissolve any remaining vestiges of their long journey. Fendril sat in the opposite chair, holding their own mug, their gaze resting softly on the small dancing flames in the hearth. The fire popped quietly, a sound as gentle as a sigh, releasing the faint, pleasant scent of burning apple wood into the room. They sat together in a shared, comfortable silence for a long time. There was no need for words, for questions or explanations. The quiet of the archive was a language all its own, speaking of peace, of safety, and of a deep, abiding welcome. Corin watched the lazy drift of the dust motes in the beams of light, their minds slowly emptying of thought, focusing only on the simple sensations of the moment, the warmth of the mug, the soft cushioning of the chair, the gentle crackle of the fire, and the sweet, herbal scent of the air. It was a perfect, uncomplicated contentment. The light from the high windows began to soften as the afternoon outside waned, shifting from a pale gold to a soft rosy hue. The shadows in the circular room grew longer and softer, blurring the edges of the many wooden shelves that lined the curved walls. Upon these shelves were not books, but countless glass bell jars of varying sizes, each one luminous and sealed, holding within them a faint, swirling mist. Corin's gaze drifted over them with a gentle, sleepy curiosity, feeling no urge to understand, only to appreciate their quiet beauty. Finally, Fendril spoke, their voice as soft and low as the humming stream outside. "You are welcome here," they said simply, their kind eyes still on the fire. "Rest for as long as you need." The words were a balm, an affirmation of the feeling the veil had already imparted. Corin gave a small nod, unable to articulate the deep gratitude they felt. The simple warmth of the drink, the profound quiet of the room, and the gentle presence of the Archivist had already begun a subtle, healing work, quieting the restless parts of the soul and inviting a deep, restorative stillness to take their place. Chapter 3. The First Whispered Story. After a time of quiet repose, when the last of the warm tea had been enjoyed, Fendril rose with that same fluid, gentle motion. They gave Corin a soft look of invitation and led them away from the comforting hearth, deeper into the circular chamber. The wooden floor felt smooth and solid beneath Corin's feet, each step taken with a slow, mindful awareness. Fendril guided them to one of the many secluded alcoves that lined the archive's wall, this one small and intimate, furnished with only a single, comfortable-looking bench padded with a soft wool-filled cushion. the air in the alcove felt cooler, holding a clean, crisp quality. Resting on a pedestal of pale, unadorned wood was a single perfect bell jar. It was larger than many of the others and seemed to glow with a faint internal light, the color of the sky just before dawn. Within the glass, a soft pearlescent mist swirled in a slow, hypnotic dance. Corin could feel a subtle coolness emanating from it, a fresh sensation on the skin, as if standing near an open window on a spring morning. Vendrell placed a gentle hand on the smooth dome of the glass, their expression one of serene concentration. The soft humming sound that seemed to fill the archive was a little stronger here, a resonant note of pure peace. Every place of peace has a breath, a whisper, Vendrell murmured, their voice barely disturbing the profound quiet of the room. This one was gathered from a high mountain meadow, at the very moment the sun first touched the peaks. The words themselves were soothing, painting a picture of a vast, silent, and beautiful place. It holds the story of that morning stillness. Vendrell's fingers found a small, almost invisible clasp at the base of the jar, and with a delicate touch, they released it. There was no sound, no sudden rush of air, only a slow and gentle unfolding. The mist within the jar did not dissipate. Instead, it seemed to expand slowly, flowing over the edges of its container like a silent, weightless waterfall. It filled the small alcove, a cool, refreshing vapor that did not obscure vision, but instead seemed to make the air shimmer softly. A scent, unimaginably clean and pure, reached Corin, the fragrance of tiny, resilient alpine flowers heavy with dew, and the sharp, clean smell of cool stone. It was the scent of a new day in a place untouched by anyone. The coolness on Corin's skin was not a chill, but a refreshing caress that seemed to awaken the senses in the gentlest way possible. Corin closed their eyes as it felt like the natural thing to do. The sensory story was not one to be seen, but to be felt and inhaled. As the cool, scented air washed over them, other sensations began to bloom in their mind. There was the distinct feeling of open space, of a vast, quiet emptiness all around. There was the faint, imagined echo of the day's first birdsong, a melodic and distant chirping that held no urgency. It was a sound that was simply a part of the morning's fabric, as natural as the light itself. The gentle current of air felt exactly like a soft breeze on an exposed, high-altitude field. This breeze held more than just scent and temperature. It held a feeling. It was the feeling of absolute solitude, yet without a trace of loneliness. It was the profound peace of a world still sleeping, of being the sole witness to the day's quiet birth. Corin felt a sense of weightlessness, as if the cool air were lifting a great, unnoticed burden from their spirit. The muscles in their neck and back seemed to soften and lengthen, releasing a tension they hadn't even been aware of holding. Their breathing deepened, becoming as slow and steady as the swirling mist around them. The experience was not like remembering a story, but like living within a single, perfect, suspended moment. It was a memory that belonged to the world itself, now shared with Corin. The meadow, the dawn, the cool air, all became a part of their own immediate reality, a deep and immersive meditation that required no effort at all. There was only the feeling of peace, the scent of wildflowers, and the gentle touch of the morning's first breaths. After a long, unmeasured passage of time, the sensation began to recede. The cool air gently withdrew, its scent fading like a pleasant dream upon waking. The mist coalesced, flowing back into its bell jar with the same silent grace with which it had emerged. Fendrel secured the latch, and the alcove returned to its former state, though the air still held a faint, lingering freshness. Corin opened their eyes slowly, feeling a profound sense of calm, a deep, inner stillness that was as vast and clean as the mountain meadow itself. Chapter 4. A Library of Gentle Airs. Fendrel offered a small knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of the peace Corin now felt. There was an unspoken understanding that this was just the beginning. For what felt like a long and wonderfully languid afternoon, Corin was guided through the Archive's collection, a library of gentle airs and whispered moments. Each alcove held a new bell jar, a new sensory story waiting to be experienced. The journey was unhurried, with long, peaceful pauses between each one, allowing the feeling of one place to settle completely before another was introduced. The next breeze Fendrel chose was from a completely different world. The mist that flowed from its jar was warm and carried a soft, humid weight. It smelled of salt and sun-warmed sand, a clean, briny fragrance that was instantly recognizable. As Corin inhaled, the air filled their mind with the gentle, rhythmic murmur of small waves lapping upon a secluded shore. It was the sound of an endless, gentle motion, a soothing shush and retreat that seemed to sync with Corin's own slow breathing. They could almost feel the texture of fine, warm sand beneath their feet and the pleasant heat of a midday sun on their skin, a warmth that soaked deep into their bones and made their limbs feel heavy and relaxed. From the warm seashore, they traveled to a deep, ancient forest just after a summer rain. This breeze was cool again, but heavy with the rich, loamy scent of a damp forest floor. It was a complex and beautiful perfume, a blend of wet earth, decaying leaves, fragrant moss, and the distinct, resinous smell of pine needles. The air was thick, with the gentle pattering sound of water droplets falling from high branches to the thirsty ground below. Corin felt enveloped in a cocoon of green solitude, a quiet, dripping world where the only activities were the slow processes of growth and renewal. It felt safe, sheltered, and deeply nourishing. Fendrel then chose a jar that held a whisper of twilight from a vast open field of lavender. As the warm, dry air was released, a profoundly calming scent filled the alcove, the sweet floral perfume of lavender at its most potent, just as the day's heat began to release its fragrance. In Corin's mind, the sound that accompanied it was a low, drowsy hum, the collective buzz of thousands of bees settling down for the night. The sensory memory was one of soft purple light, immense quiet, and a scent that seemed to naturally quiet the mind and prepare the body for rest. Corin felt their eyelids grow heavy, a comfortable, pleasant weariness settling over them. Between each experience, Corin would simply sit on the cushioned bench, absorbing the lingering sensations. Their mind, once so full of tangled thoughts and quiet worries, had become a calm and open space. The sensory stories did not demand thought or analysis. They simply were, and in their presence, the mind had no choice but to be present with them. It was a gentle, effortless form of meditation, guided by scent and sound and the feeling of air on skin. The quiet humming of the archive was a constant, soothing presence in the background, a gentle anchor in this sea of tranquility. Corin noticed how their own body responded to each breeze. The mountain air had made them feel light and clear-headed. The seashore breeze had relaxed every muscle with its gentle warmth. The forest rain had imparted a sense of groundedness and security, while the lavender field had brought a deep and welcome drowsiness. Each whispered story was a gift, a small piece of the world's quietude, offered freely and without expectation. It was a library not of knowledge, but of feeling, its collection dedicated entirely to the different flavors of peace. The soft rosy light from the high windows had now deepened to a muted violet, signaling the slow approach of evening. The faint glow of the memory moss outside the archive became more visible, casting a soft silvery blue light onto the path. Within the chamber, the bell jars seemed to shimmer a little more brightly in the growing dimness, their swirling contents like captured nebulae or sleeping ghosts of beautiful places. The world was preparing for night, and Corin felt themselves preparing with it, their inner state mirroring the gentle, quiet descent of the dusk outside. Vendrell's presence was always calm and unobtrusive. They moved like a gentle shadow, their only purpose to facilitate this journey into stillness. They never hurried Corin, allowing them to linger as long as they wished within the memory of a scent or the echo of a sound. In this remarkable library, time itself seemed to have slowed down, stretching and bending to accommodate the need for rest. Corin felt a gratitude so profound it was almost a physical sensation, a warmth in their chest that was as comforting as the hearth fire had been. They were learning the language of the world's quiet places, one gentle breath at a time. Chapter 5. The Breeze Carried Within. As a deep, velvety twilight finally settled over the Vale, enveloping it in a soft blanket of purple and indigo, the archive grew dimmer, its only light coming from the gentle flames of the hearth and the faint, mysterious glow of the bell jars. The atmosphere became even more intimate and soothing, a perfect sanctuary for the end of a peaceful day. Corin felt a deep sense of renewal, a quiet joy that was as soft and gentle as the moss on the ancient trees. It was not a boisterous happiness, but a profound, settled contentment, a feeling of being perfectly in place. Vendrell led Corin back towards the armchairs by the fire, which was now burning low, its embers pulsing with a soft orange light. The warmth radiating from it was gentle, a pleasant heat that invited rest. The archivist held a small object in their open palm. It was a locket, fashioned from the same smooth, pale wood as the archive itself, and it was warm to the touch. It was perfectly simple, without carving or ornament, its beauty found in its smooth texture and the gentle swirls of its natural grain. It felt wonderfully solid and reassuring in Corin's hand. "A small piece of the Vale's quiet for you to carry," Vendrell said softly, their voice a gentle murmur in the still air. With a delicate movement, Vendrell opened the locket. It did not contain a space for a picture, but a tiny, intricate lattice of silver wire. Vendrell took it and held it near a small, unassuming bell jar on a nearby shelf, one Corin hadn't noticed before. After a moment, a tiny, almost invisible wisp of shimmering air flowed from the jar and was caught within the locket's silver web. It pulsed once with a soft white light and then became still. Vendrell closed the locket with a quiet click. "This is the air of the Vale itself," Vendrell explained. "It holds the hum of the stream and the scent of the memory moss. When you need a moment of peace, it will be there." Corin closed their hand around the locket, feeling the gentle warmth it held. They could feel a very faint, pleasant vibration emanating from it, a resonance that matched the deep, peaceful hum of the archive. The weight they had carried for so long, the subtle burden of a hurried world, felt completely gone, replaced by this small, tangible piece of serenity. Corin felt an immense quiet gratitude. Words felt too clumsy, too loud for the moment. They simply met Fendrel's kind gaze and gave a small, heartfelt nod. The archivist understood completely, their smile warm and reassuring. There was nothing more that needed to be said. The gift was not just the locket, but the experience of the entire day. The rediscovery of a stillness that Corin now realized had been within them all along, just waiting for a quiet place to be found. Later, Corin found themselves resting in a small, comfortable room adjoining the main chamber, a place clearly intended for peaceful slumber. A soft bed was piled with woolen blankets that felt as gentle as clouds, and the only light came from a single, fat candle that flickered with a steady golden flame, casting soft dancing shadows on the curved wooden walls. Through a small round window, Corin could see the silvery blue glow of the memory moss outside, its light pulsing in that slow, hypnotic rhythm. The deep, restful silence of the valley was absolute. Lying in the soft bed, nestled under the comforting weight of the blankets, Corin held the small wooden locket in their hand. Its warmth and faint vibration were a soothing presence in the quiet darkness. They felt the profound peace of the archive residing within them now, a gentle, humming stillness in the very center of their being. Their breathing was slow and even, a soft, effortless tide. The sensory memories of the day drifted through their mind not as active thoughts, but as gentle, fading echoes. The scent of alpine flowers, the murmur of the sea, the soft patter of rain on leaves. The candle flame flickered, casting one last gentle wave of light across the room before extinguishing itself with a soft sigh, leaving behind the faintest scent of warm beeswax. The darkness was complete and comforting, a safe and gentle embrace, with the locket held loosely in their hand and the profound, abiding peace of the Vale of Whispers filling them completely. Corin felt their consciousness soften at the edges. They drifted into a deep, untroubled sleep, their dreams filled with the gentle whisper of 1,000 peaceful breezes.